before. These are just the rules generally. Markets are not linear, but run in cycles. So as I said, you might get Melbourne doing 8.1% over the long term there, but it's not going to do 8.1% every year. It might overshoot for 4 to 6 years, 4 to 7 maybe, and it might do 10 plus. Then it might do nothing for a couple of years. I mean, it might even do 0 to minus 5%, for example, for that time. Generally, rule number 2, market cycles perform at 60 to 120% growth. So what I'm saying there is it's going from basically the bottom of the cycle, which is basically your, your upturn phase, right through to your boom phase, past your winner's curse phase, downturn, and then also right down to your stabilization phase. That generally for most markets will be something between 60 to 120% growth. That's generally how it works. Market cycles, this is rule number 3. Market cycles can run for 7 to 12 years. Now, this depends on the market. And it also depends on the cycle. Now, I know people say, yeah, there's an 18.6 year cycle and all that kind of thing. I don't think it's accurate to a T, but I think it's not too bad. The Borelian curve, that is, it's quite good, that curve. It's not accurate to a T, but they definitely run in cycles. But in those cycles, generally you'll have a couple, you might even have 2 runs. You might not only have 1 run, you might have 2. So, I mean, a good example of that is the Sydney cycle between probably, I'd say, about 2005 right to about, maybe 2019 or 2017 or something like that. You kind of had a pickup after the GFC. You had a slowdown and then a second sort of pickup of the cycle there as well. But there's smaller cycles there too. There's definitely cycles where, you had, Melbourne's a good example of this in the 2017 or probably now, or you could even probably say 2014 till now or something like that. There's probably smaller elements of a cycle there too. But all of that, all of that depends on the market, depends where it's at. It generally has to do with whether it's overperformed in the past, underperformed, how much demand there is, what kind of policy is going on as well. That it all plays definitely a large part. Rule number 4 is markets generally overshoot and undershoot performance in downtime. So when the market's up, it'll generally overshoot performance. When it's down, it'll underperform for a long time. That's just what happens. The sheep follow the herd. That's the easiest way to say it. And what I mean by this is sometimes you'll see markets, they'll do 150% growth over a cycle. So they'll actually do above the 60 or 120%. And then sometimes they'll do absolutely nothing for many years. So sometimes they might even undershoot. It's rare, but they can undershoot and they might only do 40, for example, right? Now, and the reason for this is really, it's because, as I said, when markets are, for example, have underperformed for such a long time, when they break, they really break. And instead of people actually just being reasonable about it, they go over the top. So when that winner's curse phase hits, what happens is they become absolutely euphoric over it and they just bid it up like crazy. And that's how you get the ridiculous growth. Now, to the contrary, when things go bad, right, what might happen is people get turned off by a market, but the fundamentals might actually be going quite well of the market. A good example of that is Brisbane, and I will get into that soon, literally in the next slide or so. So I'll explain that, how that's kind of happened there. But anyway, we'll go. Then the last rule I've got is this creates the annualized capital growth. So you kind of look like a madman in investing because sometimes you'll make nothing for a number of years, but then other times you'll make ridiculous sums in like the space of 5 years. I kid you not. That is how markets work. And unfortunately, it's how it's going to work in the future too. So, idealistically, you want to be buying these markets at their bottoms because you'll probably get a better than average annualized capital growth if you do that over the short term, over the 5 to 10 year period. So that helps you get into your next properties and build up that equity and change your life. So it's really important. But as I was saying, I would get into the overshooting and undershooting performance in up and down times, and I'll explain that with markets just here. So commonly, the most common reaction is actually overreaction. So first of all, on the left here, I'll show you what Perth had done. Now you can see here, nothing in the early 90s, from about the year 2000 right up to about 2007-8, it did crazy numbers there. It did literally like more than 150% there. And that was obviously because mining was doing quite well and the economy was doing quite well. And you could probably correlate that to today from probably, I'd say, the COVID period right up to 2025, it would look very similar. Now, where I was describing Brisbane is when it shoots in when people become very down about a market, they become almost depressed about it and they don't see what's actually going on. So Brisbane there kind of, I'd say you'd peak between 2000 and maybe let's call it 8, maybe you could call it 2010, something like that. It did peak and then it did absolutely nothing till about 2019 or so. But really from about 2016-17, the Brisbane and Queensland economy was actually quite good, and fundamentally there was quite a few things going on that were actually changing it. Now, despite that being 2 years before it even broke, everything that was going on there and how it was looking very good. So a lot of what kind of happened there was the people who were smart actually were getting in, but kind of what happened there was a lot of people still held off before it broke. They wanted to wait to see it break. Now, when it broke, and which was kind of in year 2019, it broke a bit and then it really broke in 2021. What kind of happened there was everyone pulled in at the same time. So you got growth like this. Now, if you were ahead of the curve and you actually got in, and got in when everyone was still a little bit depressed about the market, you would have picked up stuff for almost nothing. I kid you not. There were people picking up homes in 2019 in Cannon Hill in Brisbane, which is about $1.3 million for $450,000 back then. I've even seen them picked up for lower than that. I've even seen a decent livable one for $425, believe it or not. So someone like that has more than tripled their money in the space of let's say 6-7 years, something like that. So crazy numbers, but that's kind of what happens. And look, that's no different either to somewhere like Sydney or Hobart. So on the left here, we've got Hobart too. Look, again, similar to Brisbane, to between sort of the mid 2000s to about 2014 did absolutely nothing. And then it broke like crazy as it has now. Look, Hobart's in the stabilization phase for sure right now, but that's kind of what happened with Hobart over that time. So it does break. Sydney, no different. Sort of 2003, 2004, Sydney did very well in the previous years. My apologies, and then did nothing till about 2013. Then had a really big run. So, look, really, if it's stabilized for a long time and it's due to break, it's highly likely that it will. Don't be fooled by people sitting off it because it's done very poorly in recency. It's generally the best time to buy because those people will crowd in with the crowd. It's just what people do. And where I'm going with that is what we need to think is where is our most consistent performer and what has actually done very little in the long term. And that is really Melbourne. So Melbourne is by far our most consistent and best performer actually. So again, here's your CoreLogic 30-year report. You can see how consistent Melbourne's actually performed there. Now, if you were to look at where Melbourne really is today, it would probably be just at the, I'd say where that, so if you were to do a 2025 one, it would be basically where the comma is after houses. It's basically flatlined from there. So it's, flatlined for about 7 or 8 years really. It's only done somewhere between 10 and 20%. And on average, it's done, 8.1+% on average. So that's some incredible numbers and some incredible buy opportunity really. So that's really where the market's at. It's a very good buy and you'll see that where I get into this after it, but I don't think you'll find a better buy than this at the moment. Yes, there is some issues. There is some economical issues as well, but fundamentally this city it's still better. It is, I kid you not, it is still a better city because it's an international business city than Brisbane or even Perth. It's way better than that. And the houses are just so underpriced to what the actual economics of the city are. Yeah, sure, you have a bad government. Don't get me wrong. I don't disagree with you on that, but it is still a much better city.